Asyl ist in Deutschland ein von der Verfassung geschütztes Recht. Menschen, die aus anderen Teilen der Welt vor Gewalt, Kriege und Terror fliehen, sollen hierzulande Schutz finden. Geflüchteten haben einen unterschiedlichen Aufenthaltsstatus, der für die Arbeitsmarktzulassung Ausland gegeben ist. Herzlich willkommen zu Unfiltered Bantaba Podcast. Die erste Episode des Migrantinnen und Geflüchteten Redaktion des Bantaba Akademie auf ALEX Berlin. Das monatliche Podcast ist eine bi- oder multilinguale Sendung von und für Migrantinnen und Geflüchteten, aber auch für alle, die an unserer Themen und Entwicklung oder Migration interessiert. Mein Name ist Nima Jadama. Ich bin die Moderatorin des Unfiltered Bantaba Podcast. Zu Gast bei mir oder bei uns ist Adam Bachar von Flüchtlingsrat Berlin. Herzlich willkommen, Adam.
Okay.
Zugeschaltet auch online ist Sasa Al-Rihawi, Mitbegründer von der European Coalition of Migrants and Refugees und the Global Refugee-Led Network. You're welcome to join us, Sasa. Ich freue mich sehr. Thank you. Ich freue mich sehr, auch diese Sendung mit zwei Co-Moderatorinnen, und zwar Samson Onoja Itodo und Gründer von Afrobeats Germany und Karamo Conte, ein internationaler Student. Danke, dass ihr alle dabei seid.
Thank you very much. Countries establish procedures to determine whether a person is a refugee. In Germany, the rights and obligations of asylum seekers are the responsibilities of authorities and defined by the Asylum Act. According to this law, the Federal Office for Migration and Refugee, BAMF, is responsible for the examination of asylum application. However, during or even shortly after this procedure, most and some asylum seekers are termed as tourists. Call it as asyl tourism, if you like. This is because the waiting period is accompanied with consequences like the right to work, etc., etc. My name is Samson Onoja Itodo. As our main moderator has introduced me today, I am the founder of Afrobeats Germany. I'm an author, poet, and playwright. You can check my books online on Amazon.
Thank you very much. World Refugee Day is observed June 28th every year, and the idea is to raise awareness about the situation of refugees worldwide and to commemorate their strength and courage. And the theme for this year is protection for everyone, regardless of your hometown, to have protection. And these are individuals that flee their home country for wars, for persecution, for conflicts or violence from their country, and to seek refuge in other countries, in countries that is not their home countries. And to address these challenges around the world, first we need to have protection and safety for refugees. We also need to have a legal framework that will protect the refugees around the world. And we also need to have education and employment opportunities for refugees. And as well, we need to have integration and inclusion for refugees around the world. We also need to have a conflict resolution that will stop this whole idea of refugee, the war around the world. And we need to have a global solidarity. My name is Karamo Conte. I am an international student, and I'm also working with Migrant Media Network, where we advocate for safer migration and smart migration across the world, particularly in Africa. Thank you very much.
Idee des Unfiltered Bantaba Podcast ist, über das Leben von Geflüchteten und Migrantinnen in ihrem neuen Heimatland zu referieren und porträtieren. In dieser monatlichen Reihe werden wir über unsere Erfahrungen als Migrantinnen und Geflüchteten diskutieren. Das Bantaba Podcast wird die Stimme von Geflüchteten und Migrantinnen in Berlin und Umgebung auf ALEX Berlin ausgetragen. In diesem Podcast, wir wollen zeigen, dass wir mehr sind als nur Migrantinnen und Geflüchteten. Wir sammeln die vielfältigen Geschichten von denjenigen Menschen, die fliehen mussten und jetzt in Deutschland leben. Erfahrungen auf der Flucht, Probleme des Ankommens in Deutschland und das alltägliche Leben wird in Diskussion kommen. Außerdem berichten wir über aktuelle gesellschaftliche politische Entwicklungen rund um Flucht, Asyl, Integration, Migration und aktuelle Ergebnisse zum Thema in Berlin, Deutschland und ganze Welt. Wir werden auf viele Sprachen senden, die zu Deutschland dazu gehören. Auf Deutsch, Englisch, Französisch, Kurdisch, Persisch, Polnisch, Arabisch und vielleicht noch viel mehr. Heute, wir werden eigentlich auf Deutsch, Englisch und Arabic senden. So you're watching the first edition of Unfiltered Bantaba Podcast. First, I would love to start with my guest. Adam, thank you so very much for joining us. Flüchtlingsnetz Baden-Württemberg, seid ihr auch in Vorbereitung der Weltflüchtlingstags? Wenn ja, was erwarten wir?
Danke für die Einladung. Erstmal, ich bin Adam Bahar, bei Flüchtlingsrat aktiv. Wir sind alles Organisationen, wir setzen uns auch für die Menschenrechte und den Recht von Geflüchteten. Von daher ist es klar, wir sind Teil dieses Tages, am 20. Normalerweise wir auch jetzt in verschiedenen Bundesländern zusammenarbeiten mit vielen Leuten. Wir sind lokal in Berlin, das heißt, wir versuchen uns Vernetzung in Berlin zu schaffen und deswegen wir sind jetzt in verschiedenen Treffen mit den Leuten, was zu organisieren dieses Tag. Aber 100% jetzt in unserer Kalender ist es so klar, dass kommt verschiedene Demos zu organisieren in dieses Tag. Da auch bestimmt auch 100% Empowerment alles eine mögliche Weise, also auch ein Instrument für die Geflüchteten, die sich auch ihre Rechte zu wissen. Deswegen auch wird verschiedene auch Empowerment-Workshops und Seminare stattfinden. Dazu auch wir versuchen ein bisschen die Politik jetzt nochmal zu adressieren, weil in die letzte Zeit, wir hatten jetzt in der europäischen Ebene jetzt Diskussion über Abschaffung des Asylrechts und das ist einfach ein neues Thema, das wir auch in dieses Tag adressieren, weil in dieses Tag es geht um den Schutz von den Menschen.
Ja, Schutz von den Menschen, das ist das Thema dieses Jahr, des Weltflüchtlingstag. Sasa Arihawi, thank you for joining us online. Thank you for taking your time to join us. Sasa, you're working at a global level, doing advocacy at policy level, meaningful refugee participation through the Global Refugee Land Network and, of course, the European Coalition of Migrants and Refugees that you both co-founded and as board members as well. First, tell us about the objective of, let's talk about the European Coalition of Migrants and Refugees. What are your objectives?
We can say the global is the umbrella and the European is under the global. So we are focusing more on the European chapter. Our objectives is actually three objectives. First, strengthen the leaders and refugee leaders and the refugee activists by training, by knowledge, to be able to define their problems and to advocate for their rights in the political platform, or if we can say political debates. Second, advocating for the refugee meaningful participation as an equal partner to be on the table of the discussion as they are having the right to be there. Due to our slogan, nothing about us without us, this is what we are trying to do. Like, if we want to talk and work on refugee issues, let refugee be there. Third is the visibility. So what we are trying to do is also bring more visibility to refugee and refugee leaders and to show the good practices, to show their work within the community, their community, and to bring that all to the global platform or the European platform. So this is, like, if we can say, our objectives, and also to have a network where all refugees coming together and not in competitive way, but actually in completing each other, completing the knowledge that we all have it, to have a united voice actually, to achieve our aim.
Hopefully, yeah, you want to jump in?
If I must ask, what is the synergy? I'm talking about the two organizations right now. What is the synergy between these two organizations? How do you collaborate together or work together to achieve any goal? Have you achieved any goal?
Ich denke, das Flüchtlingsrat ist eine Organisation, die existiert in 1981 gegründet und die gibt verschiedene Flüchtlingsräte überall in die ganze Bundesland. Und da ist es auch bestimmt, auch unser Gast in die andere Seite ist in Bavaria und die sind bestimmt mit der Flüchtlingsrat in Bavaria in Kontakt. Aber wir hier in Berlin, wir arbeiten hier in Berlin lokal, das heißt, wir versuchen hier mit den Organisationen, die in Berlin sind, aber wir bestimmt machen wir auch so monatlich ein Treffen mit ganzen Flüchtlingsräten, die in die ganze Bundesland und wir versuchen zusammen Themen auch in die Landebene zu bringen. Dazu auch, wir arbeiten zusammen mit Pro-Asyl, wo es auch die einfach große anderes Brille, die es auch andere verschiedene Organisationen da drin haben. Das heißt, wir fokussieren in Berlin als Land, aber wir versuchen auch die Themen, die es auch in Deutschland oder auch in Europa in sich zu haben.
Actually, almost we have the same. Like the Global Refugee-led Network focus more on the global events, the global advocacy and working in the global level, like in Geneva mostly with the states and with all the stakeholders. And we are trying with our chapter or regional chapter to have the bridge. So in the global, we try to interfere in all of these high level discussions, if we can say, where the decisions is really made, and try to bring all of this information to the regional chapters, which we have as a GRN, we have 6 chapters around the world. So what we are trying to do, like as a European chapter, we are trying to focus more on European issues, European problems, and we have the members, a board member who can be in the global. So he is the one who's taking all the things happening on the regional level to the global level and vice versa. And why we did that? Because actually all the problems that when we start as a global, almost for refugees, is the same, but the context is different. So dealing with the problems is really need like a regional or even sometimes local context. So we cannot deal with it in a global way or whatever. But when we bring the laws from global to tell that this is what we have, accordingly you can act in your context. So this is how we work.
That's a very good initiative. So I just want to know, because I know being a refugee in itself, it's a challenge that, fleeing your own country because you cannot go there for whatever reason, for war, for conflict, for persecution. That is really, really depressing. So what are some of the challenges that if you are dealing with these refugee leaders, what are some of the things do they face, major challenges in terms of integrating themselves into the country, or in terms of having the opportunities that they should have as a refugee?
Yeah, actually, it is not easy to be integrated in a new, like as a planet, you just take it from the soil and you just put it somewhere else. It's not easy always to have a successful story, but what we are trying to do is, and this is where our role as the refugee leaders, what we are trying to do is to help both community of refugees and migrants and asylum seekers, whoever, with the host community and the stakeholders who really have the decision to have what we can say, in between, where we both can work together to achieve the better inclusion, if we can say. We are not happy with the word integration, because recently had a negative, if we can say, impact or somehow, so it is used in a negative way. And from our side, integration or whatever inclusion is both side process, is not only one side process. And for refugees, they have amazing skills, but they just need the opportunities. And this is where we are trying to help and support. Just give them the opportunities, ask the states and ask the stakeholders to just be fair, giving fair opportunities as everyone else. And then they will be starting not also just successful alone, but they are helping also to have a win-win situation with the host community as well, wherever they are.
Ja, Adam, was sind die Herausforderungen, dass ihr begegnet?
Ich denke, erstmal muss man auch die Integration in der Frage zu stellen.
Ja.
Bei mir selber, ich stelle immer dieses Wort Integration in die
Was
Frage
ist
zu stellen, was
Integration?
es bedeutet und was es Integration,
Und
Integration ist.
warum
Ich denke,
Integration?
Ja,
überhaupt?
weil Integration auch bringt einfach uns nicht so viel, das in Art und Weise zu sagen, die denken, dass Integration muss jetzt alles Einbahnstraße gehen, und da finde ich einfach das falsch. Weil integrieren zu werden auch am Ende bringt nur ein gutes Beispiel.
Ja.
Für die Media, für die Gesellschaft zu sagen, okay, die haben das geschafft. In anderer Seite stellt die ganze Struktur, die in der Stadt ist, nicht in die Frage. So muss man die Struktur hinter Frage stellen, warum nur einzelne Geschichten gehen raus und die einzelne Geschichte wird alles Erfolg gesehen, aber die meisten Menschen leben in Heim, diskriminiert, die haben keinen Zugang zur Arbeit, keinen Zugang zum Sprachenkurs und alles das Mögliche ist. Und ich denke deswegen, bei uns ist Integration ist auch nicht das Wort zu nutzen, aber trotzdem unser Fokus liegt mehr in dieses Bedingungen von den Menschen, die es in Lager leben und die es isoliert ist, zu verbessern.
Ja.
Das heißt, wir legen mehr Wert in dieses, was ist die neue Ankommen haben, weil die haben so verschiedene Herausforderungen da. Die müssen erstmal raus in dieses Lager allein leben, ohne Zugang zu den Menschen, weil Integration bedeutet auch mit der Gesellschaft in Kontakt zu kommen. Und ohne das wird keine Integration stattfinden. Deswegen wir fordern mehr diese Verbesserung von erstmal die Situation von den Bedingungen von den Leuten und Zugang zu geben von den Leuten, weil die sind Menschen und haben sie recht.
What has been your strong point? Where have you won so far? Where have you achieved so far, and you think you can build on?
Sasa, before you just come in on that, I just want to sum it up in English about the Bantaba podcast. So, Unfiltered, the Bantaba podcast is the first episode of the Migrants and Refugee editorials on ALEX Berlin. It's a monthly podcast discussion, both TV, online, and of course on radio. Is a multilingual talk show from and for migrants and refugees, but of course for everyone that interests about the topic of migration, integration, or our development as well. So if you're just joining us, we're talking about Unfiltered. And why Unfiltered? I think one of you would explain why Unfiltered, but then Sasa, I think something raised a point here.
Our strength is, if we look about refugee integration in these political spaces or fora, if we can say, 6 years ago, let's say, since 2016, there is no refugee in the room. There is no one is there. They discuss everything about us without us. But since the New York Declaration and 2016 and let's say 2017 we started, because that was in December 2016. So with the beginning of 2017, as I can consider that our initiative is really successful. And what the successful is to bring refugees on the table, to have refugees, to have voice of refugees. And it's not only as a tokenization, it's not only to have their voices just in front of media, taking pictures, and that's it. No, what we are trying to do and what we achieved so far, we try to have a meaningful inclusion of refugees in everything and everywhere. And I think in Germany now, whoever conference or whatever the high-level conversation about migrants and refugees, you can see now Germany is really a champion in this, to bringing refugees with their delegations, bringing refugees to be sitting, discussing, and also talking about the gaps. And also, like yesterday, I just came from Bonn. I was invited from the German like BMZ, to be with them to discuss how they can help more in the mental health and GBV issues, let's say. So now they are not trying to take care of everything by their own. They are trying now to come to the community, to ask them what you need, where you feel like we failed, or where we can succeed, and what we can do better to have a better impact for everyone else. Because I think it is now clear that including the affected community is not an ask, it is a mandatory, it is a key for successful policies. And this is where we feel like we are succeeded.
Guys, don't forget, we are talking about asyl tourism. I don't want us to dive out of the topic. I don't want us to be looking at integration and meaningful participation, but then asyl tourism, asylum tourism, and of course, what better could be done in terms of instead of tourism, job market, and of course, on World Refugee Day. So this is actually what our topic should be. So we have a whole lot of amazing topics to talk about. Of course, integration is, it will take us 10 hours to talk about integration here. Something you actually wanted to add something, Okaramo, on not to follow up on what she was saying, but let's say, what's your understanding about asyl tourism, Karamo?
When we say about asyl tourism, usually sometimes it has this bad connotation of policymakers not trusting like everyone that filed for asylum, because they think that there are some people, the asylum cases that they file is actually not the reality, you know. So we also need to be very careful when we're talking about asyl tourism. This we mean about like people that actually are in trouble, like they flee their country for various reasons. Conflict, for instance, persecution, for instance, war, for instance. So these are people that should be given that basic human right that they deserve as a human being. So I think these are some of the things that really we want to spread that information for policymakers to know that this is what we mean when we say asyl tourism, not the fake or the bad connotation side of asyl tourism.
The marketing of this word and the negative connotations on this word is a problem for the policymakers. I think the policymakers are not comfortable creating new policies that will be in favor of this because they are scared of probably the people who voted them in. I think if this word is being marketed positively from the media aspect, you know, the citizens know the positive impact that some of these so-called asyl tourists, or whatever you want to call it, the positive impact they bring. Some of them are actually professionals, are going to even add positive impact, or are good for the job market, or are professionals from where they are coming from. If this word is properly coined and then given a positive light, I think this will lift a lot of weight off the shoulders of the policymakers, and then they can actually do their job properly. And I think there's a lot of fears across the board for everybody who wants to touch this topic, because there's a negative vibes around everything that has to do with Asyl.
Adam, du arbeitest mit Flüchtlingen und wir sind da für das Recht des Menschen, für Geflüchteten und Migrantinnen. Was siehst du über Asyltourismus? Oder was war deine Erfahrung in 2015, 2016?
Ich denke, erstmal muss man auch die Asyltourismus als Wort in Frage stellen. Was ist das? Erstmal, ich verstehe, dass Tourismus ist ein Teil von Bewegungsfreiheit. Ja. Bewegungsfreiheit sollte ein Menschenrecht sein. Dann, ich denke, warum ist nur jetzt, weil die Geflüchteten haben das gemacht, denn jetzt ist verboten, oder was ist das? Ja. Ich denke, erstmal muss das man verstehen. Ist Bewegungsfreiheit ist Menschenrecht oder nicht? Die Menschen dürfen frei bewegen, wenn sie wollen. Dann da müssen nicht die Politiker einfach ein Wort werfen und sagen, okay, das ist schlecht. Ich finde, es ist nicht schlecht, weil es ist auch, wir sind in Europa, und Europa hat dieses Möglichkeit, dass Menschen frei in ganz Europa zu bewegen. Ja. Weil es zählt alles eine Union, alles Platz, wie die Leute alle frei bewegen können. Warum dann ist diese Diskriminierung jetzt kommt und dann werden die Geflüchteten rausgenommen von dem Recht, frei zu bewegen in Europa? Die andere Sache ist, dass immer das Problem in Deutschland, wenn Politiker solche Worte rausbringen, die Leute fokussieren nicht in den Ursache für das Problem, aber fokussieren nur, was hat das Wort von Bedeutung. Ich denke, das ist das Problem hier in Europa und in Deutschland. Wir müssen gucken, nicht, was ist das Wort und warum das Wort schlecht. Wir müssen gucken, was die Ursache von das ganze Problem. Ich denke, die Verursacher ist, dass Menschen hier erstmal, keiner Mensch hier in Europa gekommen, Freiwillige zu Geflüchtete zu werden. Ja? Das ist klar. Das heißt, dann, es gibt immer hinter verschiedene Ursachen. Und wir fokussieren nicht in Ursachen. Wir würden unsere ganze Diskussion in sagen, okay, was ist schlecht dahinter und so. Und am Ende ist es eine Recht für alle, frei zu bewegen. Und von daher muss man diese Propaganda von Politikern nicht nutzen. Bestimmt haben sie dahinter Ideologie, das einfach eine schlechte Image nochmal über die Geflüchteten in die Gesellschaft zu verbreiten.
I think, like I said, this whole idea of bad connotation surrounding the idea of Asyltourism, it's something that is we need to send that information that what many of the policymakers think it is not that. And I think Germany is really doing well in terms of what Sasa said, that now that policymakers are involving refugees, that they are inviting them in the platform where the issues of refugees or migrations have been talked about. So I think that is a very good thing. So I just want to ask,
I think you guys are just commending Germany. I think they don't really deserve that at this point in time. Now, to be quite honest with you, it has been long overdue.
Yeah.
Germany is a big player when it comes to migration and refugee issues. We would say refugee issues. And that just got me. Germany could have set, okay, in 2015, Merkel set an example, and a lot of EU countries follow suit. So from there, if they should have set another example in terms of meaningful refugee participation and policy issues involving refugees like they are doing now, they just started it now and last year.
Me,
we will be talking about it.
I think, like we said before,
I understand.
hold on 1 minute, like we said before.
The thing is, it's never too late to start something good, right?
Congratulations, they are starting, but they could have done it this long.
I think, like you said, they should do again and do again. But I think the fear of a repercussion, you see the uproar that happened after...
No, we all know Germans are careful, too careful.
Do you think this has to do with the education of the people? Because, for example, I was having a discussion with somebody once who never even knew that Germans were once refugees themselves. This lack of information is always a big problem. He never knew that Germans were once refugees. And if you know your history and you know the information that are out, if you are informed that your people were once refugees and you know the causes and the reason why they have to apply for refugees somewhere else.
The thing is, Samson, if you reflect a lot on the past, you don't progress. I wrote an article on this, like on the Mauer, like Germans being refugees as well. I was shocked when I got to learn about the history, but that doesn't stop them from doing what they're supposed to do.
No, what I'm saying
anyway,
is,
I should be doing this in German because it's multilingual. So,
what I'm saying is, if the people are aware that they were once refugees, maybe they will look at the other people's situation.
That's why they're careful. That's why they're careful. Sasa,
yes.
Sasa, what's your understanding about asyl tourism? And I know 2015, 2016, you were also just arriving. I'm not sure at that time Global Refugee Network has already taken steps on such. But reflecting back, what was your experience during this time?
Yeah, actually, as my colleague already said about having some wording stuff, people are focusing on it, using the media just to use it for elections or for whatever reason. I don't know. Normally, politicians use such a stuff, but you need to understand the history, or you need to understand the purpose of refugees, why they are coming. And if these words not only refer to Germany, it's referred to EU. They will say why people are crossing from Turkey, for example. Syria, they already in Turkey, right? Why they are coming to Europe. The issue of seeking asylum is really complex, and there is many reasons behind that. We all know that conflict, war, persecution, so many things. But once you want to seek safety, you would like to be in a safe environment, secure environment. And actually, normally, the zone where is really surrounded with the people or countries also having some problems. For example, like refugees, they are seeking asylum from Syria to Lebanon. Lebanon is already suffering, already having economic problems. Refugees are not allowed to work. Refugees, they don't have right to go to school for their children. They have no rights at all. So if you are seeking asylum and seeking safety, you would like to go to somewhere where you have your rights is already protected by law also. And this is what we know about Europe. This is why, in general, the people are looking forward to go. But once the refugees have all their rights secured, whatever where, they are really happy to stay close to their countries or whatever. It's not that people would like to go. And all of the media issues and propaganda about EU and all the rights, and people are really having so many rights there, they can be in heaven. It also was one of the factors when the people are faced this kind of reality that it is not the situation. Still there is discrimination, still there's so many issues, not all EU supporting refugees in the same way. That also put a heavy burden on such countries like France, like Germany, like Sweden, because refugees, again, they will not be secured like in a sustainable way in Italy or in Greece, where they also suffer with their nationalities, with their people, to support them and to give them a sustainable assistance. So I think we need to look two factors. First is the politicians and the blah, blah, blah and propaganda. And second, for the achievement and the reality. In the community, they are, Germany and other countries, supporting refugees, and they benefited from refugees afterwards. And if you look now, many Syrians became German. They are having amazing achievements. If I will talk about my community at least, though there is other community doing amazing job, and that will be feeding in the economic for Deutschland as well. But as we said, like politically, there is something totally different. This is my point of.
Wenn du mir die Möglichkeit gibst nochmal. Ich denke, es ist auch richtig, nochmal dieses Wort Asylum Tourism nochmal von anderer Seite zu gucken. Welche die Ursache haben, dass dieses was passiert, dass die Leute von einem Land zu anderem Land gehen, weil es steht auch in den europäischen Gesetz, es gibt dieses Dublin-Gesetz. Und Dublin-Gesetz führt davor, dass die Menschen einfach erstmal in ein Land bleiben und in ein Land ihr ganzes Asylantrag bis zu Ende sehen, ob das Erfolg bringt oder nicht. Aber da klar, die Menschen, wenn sie keine Möglichkeit haben in ein Land und sehen sie sich, okay, ich habe keinen Aufenthaltsstatus hier kriegen kann, dann sie würden sich in ein anderes Land gehen, weil die denken, okay, in ein anderes Land habe ich mehr Möglichkeiten. Und da muss man auch nochmal gucken, ja, die ganze europäische Bürger dürfen in die ganze Europa frei so bewegen, aber für die Geflüchteten wird auch erstmal verboten, aber in die gleiche Zeit wird auch in der Stadt, in ganz Europa, wird auch ein Gesetz, so wie Dublin, gemacht, die ist auch die Menschen einfach in einem Ort Jahren verbringen müssen. Und normalerweise, das sage ich, sollte der Asylantrag bis 6 Monaten eine Antwort bekommen, wenn man einen Asylantrag hat.
Ja, normalerweise.
Aber
das dauert manchmal 5 Jahre,
6 Jahre.
10 Jahre.
Und du kannst nicht dann erwarten, von den Menschen 6, 5 Jahre in einem Ort zu bleiben. In die andere Seite, du erlebst die ganze andere Bürger frei zu bewegen. Ich finde, das muss man auch die Ursache dahin zu gucken, und gucken, welche staatliche Diskriminierung dahin gibt von Europa und auch von Deutschland.
Political narratives, reframing migrants, or reframing media narratives towards migrants and refugees, creating our own space is actually one of the reasons why the idea of the Unfiltered Bantaba Podcast started. So about the podcast, what we want to do is to talk about situations like this. We want to talk about the issues affecting, and of course, progresses and success stories of migrants and refugees in their host countries, of course, in Germany. And it's actually a monthly talk show, like I said, in German, that we will be having an open discussion like this with topics to talk about. Today we're looking at asylum tourism and as well a look at the World Refugee Day that is celebrated every 20th of June. So stay tuned and join us every month. You will be hearing what we say. But as I said, today we are talking in 3 different languages: German, English, and Arabic. So I would love if Adam just talk to us about your work, Flüchtlingsrat, what you do in Arabic, so that our viewers as well knows. Okay, Adam is here. This is what they do in Arabic. I don't speak Arabic. I would have loved to explain about the podcast, but I think you can do that for us at the end, or Sasa will do that for us at the end. No, Sasa will talk about the Global Refugee Land Network, and the end you see you two who will talk to our Arabic viewers.
Ich denke, wir können auch jetzt auch machen. Ich denke, ich kann auch ein bisschen erzählen, was Flüchtlingsrat macht.
Ja,
das in Arabisch.
auf Arabic jetzt.
Ja, منظمة هي منظمة عندها أكثر من 40 سنة تم إنشائها في العام 1981 وتعمل من أجل دعم حقوق اللاجئين. حقوق اللاجئين بتعني هي من حق أي لاجئ الحماية، من حق أي لاجئ إنه يكون في مسكن جيد، إنه يكون عنده الحقوق الكاملة للحقوق الإنسان، يعني كأي شخص، كأي فرد، كأي إنسان. فمنظمة فلوشلينغ بتعمل من أجل هذه الحقوق، بتعمل في عدة مجالات. في المجال السياسي بتعمل على نقل صوت اللاجئين والمهاجرين إلى السياسيين، وبتعمل إلى دفع السياسيين إنه ما يحاولوا ينقصوا من حقوق اللاجئين. في الناحية الأخرى بتعمل برضو مع اللاجئين جنبا إلى جنب من أجل توعيتهم بحقوقهم السياسية، بحقوقهم القانونية في البلاد التي جاءوا إليها مثل ألمانيا يعني. فباختصار، لكن موجود في كل ألمانيا، يعني فلوشلينغ هي موجودة، نحن كجزء من فلوشلينغ موجودين في برلين، لكن هي منظمة موجودة في كل المدن الألمانية.
Vielen Dank. Ich habe nur Almania, Berlin und Flüchtlingsrat verstehen. Aber vielen Dank für das Zusammenfassen über Flüchtlingsrat, Ihre Arbeit, was ihr macht. So, yeah, we talk about, again, inclusion, diversity, integration, meaningful participation. Again, on Unfiltered Bantaba Podcast, we want to show to you that we're just more than migrants and refugees. We're not just tourists roaming around, trying to just get pleasure. As he said, asylum also comes up with privileges, and everybody has the right to actually move. So we would be, collecting voices of refugees and migrants to actually, portray it out, to talk about their issues that is affecting them, that is affecting us, about their route to Germany, for instance, about their current situation, the life they're living in Germany, and of course, whoever might be joining us outside of Germany. What is important to them? What are the challenges they are actually facing? And of course, the actual political situations that are happening around the development of migration, integration, and of course, asylum, refugee issues in Berlin and in Germany. Karamo, you want to add anything? Let's talk about World Refugee Day. Karamo, you are not a refugee. You don't have a refugee background. On this table, it's a diverse background here. You came as a student and you are still a student. So you have a different perspective as me, as Adam, as Samson, as Sasa. Tell us, when we say World Refugee Day, what does this remind you? Like, has your experience somehow to do with it, or?
Not directly dealing with refugees, but having to do a bit of research and having to watch videos about refugees around the world and the struggle that they face to move their country. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, that being a refugee in itself, it's a stress and it's a depression. Leaving your own country, your country of birth, and knowing the fact that you cannot go back to your country for whatever reason, being war, being conflict, being persecution, that in itself, it's depression. So I think it is fundamental. Refugees should be given that basic human right, that wherever country that they go to or flee to, the policymakers should give them that listening ears. They should listen to them. They should listen to the things that they've gone through, and they should have that access to education, that access to integration, that access to giving them that equal opportunity that they deserve, that all human beings deserved. Yeah. So I think it's really good. And when it comes to the day of celebrating World Refugee, it's a day of celebrating their courage and their strength. Because like I said, fleeing your country, it took courage, and most of these people they don't have like a flight, they don't travel via flight or
by foot, by boat. Libya.
That's a trauma.
It's dangerous, and most of them lose their life along the way.
Absolutely.
Some of them, us like African, would take loans to make sure that they get in. But Sasa, you made a different experience. You have a very, very interesting story that really inspired me, from working for refugees to becoming a refugee yourself. What's I'm like, this is amazing. Working for refugees with UNHCR, the United Nations for Refugees, a High Commissioner for Refugees, and now being a refugee yourself. Like this contrast, what has been your experience, and do you think it even necessary to celebrate World Refugee Day? I mean, I'm asking myself this question all the time.
Actually, as a World Refugee Day, it's not a celebration at all, for sure. It's a day for acknowledging the rights of refugees. It's a day for raising the awareness about their journey, their suffering, their rights, their resilience, actually, their courage, as my colleague already pointed. And it's a day where we, as a UNHCR staff, a former UNHCR staff, we used to bring all together refugees to share their stories, to share their good practices, and also it's a time where we bring states, governments, stakeholders to come together to do some kind of commitment to support and to give more strength for the community in the host countries. But as a refugee myself, the shift is that at first it gives me really a power. When I used to say a refugee, I didn't feel that the labeling issue. I used to work with the UNHCR. I feel like refugee. I couldn't take it as a labeling somehow. But now, as a refugee myself, sometimes I'm feeling annoyed because I'm turned from a person to just a status, which is refugee. And always we trying to say refugee is a status, but I'm still a human. I'm still the same person. And actually, it's a privilege if I will look at it from different perspective. Why? I am privileged to share these two experiences. I am really proud of myself to have all of this a long journey with the struggles. I am a resilient person. I experienced being woman alone and somewhere she doesn't know, facing all these problems. And I am happy that I overcome all of that. And I create, if I can say, or found the Global Refugee-Led Network. So I'm doing something so good out of my journey. And the World Refugee Day for refugees, actually, it's a day where we share our experiences, our successful stories. We share our strength, our resilience. So actually, it's like to reminding that we are struggling, but actually we are achieving our new life. We are supporting, bringing new skills to the new countries or host countries that we are coming in. So how I see it.
Apropos new life, this is also one reason why we said unfiltered. And what do we mean by unfiltered? So unfiltered, we thought it necessary to say, okay, as migrants, or as individuals, I would call it, you migrate to Germany or outside of your country, totally unfiltered. You're pure, in a sense. Now, you travel to Germany and without the expectation of, some of us I've never received a letter in Gambia. a post. For example, I've said this and people would laugh. Now you come to Germany, you are filtered with the bureaucratic system. Like every day you have to open your post to see if you have letter. You're filtered with the integration system. You're filtered with the culture shock in this world, trying to leave, to adapt to the system, education, whatever is filtered. We want to unmax this. We want to unfilter it. This is why we said, Unfiltered, the Bantaba Podcast.
Today is the International Day for Refugee, and I think it's time for reflection also. Let's reflect on, let's take, for instance, the situations we have during the Ukraine refugee crisis, how do I put it?
The buyers.
The buyers are some...
Double standards.
Are some refugees more for refugee than the others? The way the international community, I think the international community and the European Union need to reflect thoroughly on this, on the way some refugees are being treated. Are some more of a tourist than the other? We have to look at all these angles and all the failures that happened during these times. I would like to put a question to both...
You're smiling. That means you want to answer.
I'd like to put a question to both organizations. How did you guys, when these situations were happening whereby
it's still happening.
We observed a lot of discrimination. There's a loud cry out there about what happened and how some refugees were being treated. How did you both of your organizations were able to how did you deal with this?
Von meiner Seite, ich kann sagen, klar, das ist erstmal nicht alle Geflüchtete sind alles Geflüchtete gesehen. Das sehen wir alle und das hat auch mit einer globalen Phänomen zu tun, mit Rassismus und Kapitalismus zu tun. Das nicht nur hat zu tun mit dem Wort Geflüchtete selber oder wer geflüchtet, aber hat auch zu tun mit einer Struktur, die seit kolonialer Geschichte dahin richtig etabliert. Das heißt, zum Zeit von Kolonial klar ist, dass wer immer besser weiß ist, dann ist immer mehr akzeptabel oder Akzeptanz gekriegt in den Gesellschaften und die ganze Welt.
Das heißt, es ist mit dem Hauptfarbe zu tun.
Ja, da klar, 100%.
Das Status zu tun.
Und das Status zu tun und auch
Herkunftsland zu tun.
Ja, ob man Geld hat oder nicht auch zu tun hat. Das, wir sehen uns auch seit Jahren auch. Das entwickelt mit der Zeit. Ja. Zum Beispiel hier in Deutschland hatten wir gehört, dass Deutschland sagt, ja, wir hatten von der Geschichte von 2015, 2016, das war viele Geflüchtete aus Syrien gekommen und haben wir darum gelernt.
Kann ich schnell, du sagst Status. Hast zu tun mit Status. Das bedeutet, wenn jemand von Afrika kommt, ist reich oder hat eine große Status, ist mehr,
ja, klar. Ich denke, du siehst nicht die Leute, die mit Geld haben, die hier als Geflüchtete benennt oder so. Die sind einfach, sie sitzen in einer anderen Ebene, weil wir sind in kapitalistischer Welt. Wir leben in einer Welt, da ist auch Kapitalismus zu tun hat.
Aber sorry, ich spreche dich nicht, aber ich hatte letzten Monat eine Sendung von Nimas Bantaba über die politischen Kämpfe von Geflüchteten in Libyen. Und da war in Diskussion ein Statement von einer Mitarbeiterin von UNHCR, UN Refugees, und der meinte, protection costs money. It's about who has money. I was like, a whole UN refugee agency is uttering such. So from the discussion we understand, for example, if you're in Libyen, man muss richtig viel Geld haben,
to be accepted.
Ja, nicht nur das. Ich denke, es ist auch hier, wenn wir zum Beispiel die letzte Entwicklung von den Geflüchteten aus Ukraine sehen, ist auch hat zu tun mit dem Wort, wie hier gesagt, sagen Integration zu tun. Für den alles Menschen, die weiße Hautfarbe hatten, ist einfach in die Gesellschaft zu integrieren und niemand sieht, okay, da ist anders aussieht. Ich bin zum Beispiel, ich rede Deutsch, ich bin hier seit 12 Jahren, ich bleibe immer Geflüchtete. Die Leute, wenn mir gucken, die denken erstmal, ich kann da keiner Deutsch reden, die fangen an mit mir Englisch oder Französisch zu reden. Sie denken, dass es ist einfach klar, müssen wir das ist alles in den Tisch legen, dass es Rassismus und Diskriminierung hat mit dieser ganzen Sachen zu tun hat. Wir haben das auch gesehen, weil die Menschen aus Ukraine dürfen einfach hier kommen und dieser Gesetz, die es Deutsche benutzt hat oder ganz Europa benutzt hat, dass die Menschen aus Ukraine einfach Status kriegen, Aufenthaltstitel kriegen, ohne in das Asylumsystem reinzugehen, Dieser Gesetz existiert seit Jahren.
Ja.
Die haben nur das aktiviert. Die haben das nicht für die Geflüchteten aus Syrien aktiviert.
Und die sind
haben
auch,
gar nichts für
auch
andere Geflüchtete
Kriegsflüchtlinge.
aktiviert. Die haben nur für die Geflüchteten aus Ukraine aktiviert.
Weil die
das
sind
nicht
Europa.
bedeutet, dass wir gegen dass Leute aus Ukraine eine Möglichkeit zu haben und einfacher Status hier zu kriegen in Europa. Aber wir sehen es auch mal, weil wir sind in diesem Tag von Reflexion, da muss man auch sagen, wir müssen nicht nur als Politiker und politische Militärinnen einfach reflektieren, wir müssen auch in Gesellschaft reflektieren, weil mich selber habe ich das betrachtet in dieser Zeit, war Menschen aus ganz Deutschland haben ihre einige Wohnungen geöffnet und Leute aus Geflüchtete aus Ukraine an ihre Wohnung reingenommen. Da war nicht die gleiche Behandlung, die Geflüchtete aus Syrien gekriegt haben oder Geflüchtete aus Afrika und anderen Ländern gekriegt haben. Es auch hat eine Gesellschaftsreflexion ist nötig in dieser Sache, um zu gucken, wie wir auch Rassismus betrachten in der Gesellschaft in Deutschland.
Ja, also apropos Rassismus, ich war auch in einer Paneldiskussion als Panelisten und das war auch die Double Standard über diese ukrainische Situation. Und die Frau, so war eine Frage oder so, war so, ja, ich habe meine Wohnung an ukrainische Geflüchteten angeboten, weil ich will das unbedingt machen. Ich will meine Wohnung nicht an so ein anderer Flüchtling anbieten, außer eine Ukrainerin. Und sie war so, ja, ich bin froh, dass ich das gemacht habe. Das ist so ein bisschen wütend, aber was kann man dagegen tun? Nichts. Du musst es
So I think
to that, let me follow for that. To that, what do you look listening to that person? From what angle do you think she's coming from? Do you think she's racially, is it from racism or just being scared of other people? How do you say, or miseducation?
I will not say scared.
Sorry.
I will not say scared. And I'm not sure if I want to call it racism 100%. One, I think it has to do with her personal belief. That's what she wants. She wants to give her a place to...
It is not miseducation. It has to do with fear.
No, there are some people, even if they are informed, they don't care. If I decide that I want to work with something, I would work with something.
But something must.
It could be racism, of course.
Direct your actions. Every action comes from reaction to something.
And then I said, I think that is why it's very important, like a day like this, where we are commemorating the World Refugee Day. That's to raise awareness and to make sure that policymakers are informed. That we need to be. I think we need to start having that honest conversation where. Because if you look at the themes of this year, that protection for everyone. So we need to have that honest conversation and that honest reality of everyone needs to be protected, regardless of your color, regardless of your background, regardless of your ethnicity, your religion. We need to protect people and things like this. It's very important, and policymakers need to be informed. And I think people are doing really well, and Sasa too. You're doing really, really good. I think they like this. If you have that opportunity to sit with policymakers, you need to put this to them that we need to start having that honest conversation. That this is the thing, and we need to mean what we said.
I just want to mention that as a GRN, actually, we tried. Regarding the point of double standards, we try to bring this up to the policymakers and in a high level and even in Geneva. To instead of saying it's double standard, we said, amazing job. You see what you did with the Ukrainian? This is what we need with everyone. So we use it as a positive practices, and we ask if we can have that for everyone. So because once we were criticizing all the time, so they were more defensive. But once we said that we appreciate what you do and what you are doing so far, then they said, but we will try to see how we can help in this and how we can do that for different refugees from different countries. But however, it is a discrimination. We cannot hide it.
I've asked the experience of Karamo and Sasa from a refugee perspective and a student perspective. You also have a different. background. Tell us, how is it with you?
I wasn't that experienced because I didn't. I was just shortly in that when I went to Finland. I was just there briefly, and I wouldn't say. I think I didn't stay in that angle very long, so I had to move quickly. So I didn't experience such, but you still see some things there that are not, I only paid more attention to what happened last with because I got involved somehow. I was, monitoring. I was doing a lot of interviews and all the stuff with some of the experiences of the refugees, and so I learned more from that than my own experience, because my own experience was a very short one. So I didn't go through much, and I don't really, but I learned more from the Ukraine issues.
Yeah, but when we say World Refugee Day, what type of reflections do you get to?
I think the word refugee needs to be really dampened down a bit, because when you hear it at once, you think about people who are totally hopeless, or people who are poor. It has this too much negativity to it, and I think. I don't know. I think the world needs to be educated more about this, and so that we'll see that these people are not just. Let's bring it to that point whereby even rich people can be refugees also. Educated people can be refugees also. Well-meaning people can be refugees. Honest people can be refugees also. Not just look at it from this negative side. Because I think like I said, if it's in the school system, if in the history lesson, if it is in the educational system that people are informed about what refugee is. Understand me? Because if I know I was once, my parents were once a refugee, I will have a bit of more soft ground and more, and also it also helps to know where if I know my father was once a refugee in Ethiopia or South Africa or Libya or Egypt or somewhere that now I see, or in Syria. Supposing my father I may have a German father that is once a refugee in Syria, and Syrians are now seeking refugee here. You kind of have a soft spot for them in that instance. So I think a lot of these things need to be shown in schools and taught.
Adam, du hast einen geflüchteten Background, ja? Was kannst du mit uns deiner Erfahrung auch teilen? Und das Weltflüchtlingtat, was erinnerst du daran an?
Ja, ich denke, es ist meine Erfahrung. Es ist ein bisschen lange her. 2008 oder so bin ich nach Europa geflüchtet, und das ist lange her. Aber trotzdem, es ist die Situation nicht so viel geändert. Ich denke, wir müssen erstmal gucken, was bedeutet erstmal Geflüchtete zu sein. Weil, wie gesagt, wenn man einen Geflüchtete oder sich als Geflüchtete auf den Weg gemacht hat, dann bleibt immer Geflüchtete. Und das ist die schwierige Situation, die immer man lebt und immer wiederholt in die ganzes Leben. Mich selber beschäftigt in diesem Tag erstmal dieser Schutz vor alle da zu sein. Ich denke, das ist eine der Sachen, die müssen wir alle reflektieren. Nicht nur als Gesellschaft, aber auch individuell, weil für mich ist auch bedeutet auch, dass ich bin in anderer Position jetzt nach 12 Jahren. Ich bin hier in Deutschland seit 10 Jahren hier, habe ich eine andere Erfahrung gemacht. Ich habe einen festen Job, ich habe viele Sachen und mich auch beschäftigt, okay, wie kann ich jetzt auch meine Privilegien nutzen, anderes zu unterstützen, weil am Ende ist es auch, wenn wir gucken, ist mehr als 100 Millionen Menschen sind Geflüchtete auf der ganzen Welt. Das heißt, es richtig viele Menschen sind auf dem Weg oder sind Geflüchtete schon, und dazu brauchen wir internationale Solidarität. Braucht Solidarität von jeder. Und das heißt, jeder Mensch kann sich selber auch in dieser Weg was zu machen, andere Leute zu unterstützen, solidarisch dabei zu bleiben. Und mich beschäftigt diese Frage, wie kann ich jetzt meine Position als Menschen, die in Deutschland lebt, die ist jetzt schon die Sprache kennt, die schon ist mehr andere Sprachen auch kenne, die ich auch schon hier Job habe. Wie kann ich auch andere Menschen unterstützen? Weil die individuelle auch Solidarität zählt und macht den Unterschied.
Das war's von unserer heutigen Sendung oder unserer ersten Sendung des Unfiltered Bantaba Podcast. Mein Name ist Nima Jatama. Das ist eine monatliche Podcast-Reihe, die jedes Monat wir über verschiedene Themen in Diskussion kommen. Das was von uns, folgt uns auf Social Media oder uns ein E-Mail schicken, ist ein Tschüss von uns.